What's wrong, Zadie?
Man, I am starving.
My dear boy, you've never been starving a day in your life. Let me tell you a story. Follow me. Please sit down. Before I tell you my story, you must promise me that my life story will become part of you. That you will not only tell my story, but you will tell others to retell it. I don't care how you tell it, as long as you express my story. My name is Frajman. I am a Holocaust survivor going through the Warsaw Ghetto. I was there with my mother, my sister, and some other members of my family till 1943. The situation in the ghetto was tragic. Starvation, typhus, some mothers cradling infants. Some of them were not alive anymore, and mothers did not want to part with them. I got a job as a messenger boy. My sister, however, was too young. We had to hide this child behind the false wall. The Jewish people were allowed 185 calories per day, probably equals to a bagel. The Germans had a favorite game. They would run through the ghetto on a motorcycle and a machine gun on it. They shoot indiscriminately into the populace, knowing full well whoever they will hit is going to be a Jewish person. Some people started to follow the transports. They came back with tales of horror, that people are being gassed and shot, hunt, electrocuted, clubbed to death. And within the ghetto, we did not want to believe. On the eve of the Passover holidays, the Germans decided to liquidate the ghetto in its entirety. I was with my mother then, May the 3rd of 1943. They brought us to a place called Umschlagplatz, where the freight cars were waiting to hold maybe 40, 50 people. They put 120 of us. For that journey, we got 2 buckets, 1 5-gallon filled with water, and 1 empty utensil to relieve yourself. Some of the people within the wagon suffocated. Fenced-in area, we saw some high voltage wire, watchtowers, Germans walking around with dogs, attack dogs. And in the morning, they took away children from parents. And a lot of them objected, and the German, without ceremonies, took their weapon and shot the person right in front of everybody, carted them away never to be seen again. Then they separated men from women. And this probably was the worst part of my being under the Germans. This was the last time that I did see my mother and sister alive. I never even had the luxury of saying the proper goodbyes to them. They were taken from me and murdered in cruelty. We found out where we were, extermination camp called Majdanek. Very few people survived this camp. Hell on earth. Life was absolutely meaningless. I was taken out to another camp, a camp called Skarżysko. I came down with typhus. They had no use for me, so I was selected to die. And a friend of mine who was a carpenter was able to pluck me out and hid me in his carpentry shop, thereby saving my life. And they decided to evacuate that camp of Skarżysko and sent us into the camp called Buchenwald. I have a jacket that I did show you that I was issued there. From Buchenwald, we went to a camp called Schleben, and they didn't know what to do with us. So we were taken onto a death march. And what a death march is, if you could not keep up, put you aside and killed you. We were divided, and my half we kept on walking. And on May the 8th, we were put in a school. And in the morning, we get up, see a tank standing right in front of us. And I said to myself, this is probably the end of us. They most likely want to kill us all just to cover up the atrocities. The turret opens up, out comes a Russian officer. And this was the day of my liberation. I was 15 and a half years old.